Welcome to the Lighthouse. I'm your host, Ryan, and this is the show for business leaders to unlock their full potential. Together, we're going to explore the tools, strategies, and insights that you can use to navigate the complexities of the entrepreneurial mind, maintain your mental wellness, and elevate your leadership to take your business and your life to the next level. Each episode, we're going to bring you powerful conversations with various leaders across multiple industries who have the mindsets, strategies, and tools that they've used to transform their own journey. So whether you're here to lead your team better, grow your business, or take your life in a completely new direction, this is the show for you. Let's illuminate your path forward. Welcome back to the Lighthouse. I'm here with today's guest, and he is a legend in the fitness and fitness business space. He's the OG of online coaching, Vince Del Monte. And if you've spent time in the online fitness world, you've definitely heard his name. He's built one of the most recognized fitness brands online, and then has taken that and been able to teach hundreds and hundreds of other fit pros how to build their own brands, multiple seven-figure online business he's built. And more importantly, he's figured out how to make a purpose-driven business and really make this transition as a husband, a father, and a leader in the entrepreneur world that goes beyond fitness, it goes beyond business. And I'm excited to have him on here today to talk about that transition and some of the lessons that he's learned along the way. So welcome to the show, Vince. Thanks for showing up, man.
Yeah, absolutely, Ryan. Excited for this conversation. You got a very different calm in your voice than last time we spoke. So I can tell you've been doing some serious work on yourself as well.
Yeah, man. And that's what I really like, this concept of like the idea of the lighthouse and how do you become this leader inside of your business that's not just driving the ship forward, but you're also guiding people from a standstill mountaintop. You're not getting in the water, you're not pushing things around. And I think one of the things that I've seen for you these last few years is you've kind of taken that leadership position in the online world, specifically in the fitness space. I think for online coaches, you've started to talk about these topics of leadership in a different way. And I'd just be curious, how did that start for you? What kind of shifted to get you talking about leadership in a different way and looking at it in business differently?
I mean, I've seen the cost firsthand of not leading yourself. I think that's the hardest person to lead by far. Leading yourself is by far the most challenging thing you'll go through in life. So coming back to yourself is one of the hardest things. I think a lot of men are disconnected from their head and their heart. So for me, it was a massive pain that woke me up, which was my separation 2.5 years ago, which really was, I would consider, my rock bottom. It was the most excruciating thing I've ever experienced. And I don't want to go into all the gory details, but it's been 2.5 years of just processing how I contributed and a big process of like healing, forgiving myself, and really trying to figure out what kind of man I want to be. And really just asking that question, like, who the heck am I? I think that's the number one question men are trying to figure out. And I think a lot of us men, we find our identity in, what the world considers success, fame, riches, status, and all that stuff. And I found a lot of security in those things. I found a lot of comfort in those things. And I grew up in a Christian home. So I was like taught to, put your security in the Lord and to, trust him, to, surrender and to involve him in your plans and like pray for his will and not your will. So like, it wasn't like I didn't know this, but I didn't know it consciously. It wasn't until I lost the closest person in my life, my wife, in November 2022. And she basically said, I'm done. I've tried, and in her mind, there was no point trying anymore. And she just checked out. And that's what woke me up when I actually realized I could not win her back. There was nothing I could do or say to change her heart. Her heart was like, it was just gone. So I think when I realized that I had just lost her, I lost my family as I know it. I still have 50% custody of my kids and I see them, and we actually have a 10,000% better relationship and experience, just the four of us now, which is crazy. But like losing the family unit and then everything that came with that, the dream of moving to the United States as a family into a dream home we'd spent 2 years building prior, all of that just essentially rocked my world. And I essentially felt like a fraud. I mean, that's like even an understatement. I felt like a complete failure. And I had to figure out How did I get here? One of the big things I realized was I was completely disconnected with myself. The best way to describe it was I was asleep. I was numbed out on money, experiences, even, the last 3 years when business was very stressful, a lot of alcohol and a lot of, even just gluttony in a weird way where we're always, celebrating and partying
Yeah,
and
yeah.
eating and drinking. And I think I didn't realize like I was like wasn't connected to myself. I wasn't comfortable in my own skin because I hadn't done any work. And every issue in my life up until that point had been swept under the rug. All of our dysfunctional communication, all of our issues were an inconvenience. And neither of us had
Hmm.
dealt with our childhood wounds. We hadn't dealt with the stuff we brought to our marriage. And it all just, came to a crash.
I'm just curious, in going through that process and looking back on it, do you feel as though it was like you were moving through everything, so you never actually get like fully experienced it type of feeling? When you said like that disconnect, when you were pushing in business and everything was, you said like celebration and driving forward, do you think that it was like that feeling of going through that you're never actually stopping to experience the moments? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. I know we both worked with Annie and she was trying to teach me how to feel like, these celebrations, these milestones. Like we were running a significantly sized business with a
Hmm.
large team, and we were considered, I would say, the number one fitness business coaching program in the space. We were the go-to program. It wasn't enough because again, I was finding my identity in what I did and how much I had and how people perceived me. And it wasn't enough. It seemed like there was always another level to strive for. There was a lot of subconscious stories running me. And what's interesting is I already like when I lost everything and I realized what I actually wanted was a relationship
Hmm.
with my wife, with my partner, with my kids. When I realized like once you lose everything, you start to see like, what do I want now? It wasn't like, hey, oh, well, big deal. Let's just keep building the business. That is not what I did. I did
Yeah,
not
yeah.
care about business. It felt like the dumbest thing in the world, helping people make money online. Like I didn't want to talk about that. I had to do it because I had, a lot of clients who were, engaged in contracts and are paying me. And this is my career. This is my job. It's like I can just sleep. But that's what I wanted to do. I literally wanted to
Yeah.
just sleep. I just wouldn't want to wake up to this reality of like, I don't know what I want to do now.
It's so interesting you say that, Vince, because I had a friend who went through a near death experience. And when they awoke, it was the same thing where they wouldn't do business. They didn't care about, like, they wouldn't look at business. They didn't want to do any of that. They just wanted to take time to figure out what they wanted. Like very, very, very similar experience. So it's almost like you had like this transformation of self in that going through that experience.
This process woke me up. And then immediately what I try to do is reconcile. I want to reconcile. And I
Yeah.
wanted to address like my 50%. I immediately connected with a lot of divorced men. And they said, Vince, the first thing you got to do is detach from the idea of getting her back. And you need to decide that you want to change for you, not to get her back, not to get because all of a sudden I started thinking of all of our wealth and all of our assets. I'm like, everything's going to get split up and I'm going to lose this house and I'm going to lose this dream. And everybody's seen me making this exit out of the country. And I was concerned with my image. Now I started to see all the things that were running my life. I
Hmm.
was worried about my image, my reputation, how much I had, which was where I was putting all my comfort. And I had to face all this stuff for the first time. And then I had to look at all the things that I contribute to, or why did I tolerate certain things in my marriage? Right. In every marriage, there's two streaks, right? So there was things that I tolerated that I shouldn't have tolerated. I said, hey, we need to get some help. This should not be happening on a regular basis. But it was just like, why did I not care? Why did I take my vows for granted? Why did I take her for granted? Why did I think we could deal with this down the road? And I started to see all these gaps in when I don't respect myself. There's a lack of integrity in areas of my life. I'm more concerned with what I'm perceived to be rather than who I actually am behind closed doors. Why am I, trying to monetize my family to say, hey, look at me, I make all this money and I'm a good family man. All this stuff got exposed. So I went through this very, very humbling process of realizing that this isn't the guy I want to be. But then even in the process of the healing, I discovered more stuff about me. And then I started to, have to process how my parents played a role in all this stuff as well. And one interesting thing was my parents loved me so much that they defended. They're also like, they're aware of like how I show up and how I'm, disengaged and, distracted at family occasions. I'm always on my phone and stuff. So they knew that like how I contributed, but big picture, they defended me, right? Vince, you gave her, you gave your family this amazing life. They, like most of your buddies would do, look what you did, look what you brought to the table. And I was like, yeah. And I defended. And I finally got this therapist. It was actually, I don't know if you heard about Angel, Annie's kind of coach therapist. So Angel, I worked with her for an extensive period of time. And she just, best way I can describe it is she woke me up. Like she really got me conscious and got me to look at the dark stuff inside me that I would defend and say, the way she described it is like, Vince, you've got this like little pile of shit underneath this big, beautiful cake, but there's still a little pile of shit underneath the cake. You got to still deal with the shit. You can't eat the cake and just, so she made me look at the dark side of me that I just kind of swept under the rug. And I realized I'm a 43, 44-year-old man. I have to decide if I want to continue to have these dark spots running me. And that's when I started just to become more aware. But in the process, I was also becoming much more forgiving and graceful and understanding on myself. So I was able to more, work through the process of, hey, I don't need to fix this like overnight, but I do need to start making different decisions or else I'm going to repeat the same patterns. Yeah. And I had consciousness of like, hey, what do I actually want? What's interesting is I had like all the like worldly things I already had. Like I had the house I wanted. I had the trips I wanted. I had the car. I had the amount of money I wanted in the bank. I had all that, but it wasn't good enough. And I didn't realize what I really wanted was a relationship. I wanted to be in a connected, intimate, vulnerable relationship, but I didn't know how to get it. So I also learned a lot about myself where I was able to extend myself a lot of grace and just realize that, I have a certain story. I built my identity on things that are seen publicly, outwardly, but there was still this gap, and I wanted to fill this gap and be content. I wanted to start to have feelings of contentment, which I never really experienced, which is very counterintuitive to what we experience in our world, which is, the big guys in our world, the Andy Elliott's and the Andy Frisellas and Gary V's. It's just like, if you're, Wes Watson's, these guys, like, it's all about like, if you're not going full tilt, like you're wasting your potential. And I think there's definitely, there is something to like, but like, what's the point then if I'm not ever happy? Like, I'm never supposed to be happy. Then why am I on this? Why am I doing this? So I started asking a lot of questions that I never even made space for. Like you, I was journaling. I've been journaling every day for over 2.5 years, back into my quiet time, back into
What
worship
were some
music.
of those questions that you asked? What were some of those questions that you had in there when you're going through that? Like,
who am I? A big one is, who am I and what do I want to feel like at the end of each day? Like, what's my desired emotional end state? Like, what do I want to feel? Like, what is success? And I started to look at it from different dimensions, business, like, was a certain amount of profit, not revenue. I was more focused on like, am I in alignment with who I'm serving and what I'm sharing? The relationship I have with my kids, how I feel with my kids. Am I connected to them? Do I know them? Is the house calm or is it like constant screaming? Like I have for 3 kids, our house is pretty calm. Now, is there screaming? Am I reprimanding? Am I pulling the car over and letting the kids sort things out in the backseat before we start driving again? That happens all the time. But like overall, like we have this incredible, I've never imagined like being this connected my kids. Like they're constantly in my arms. We're constantly doing things together, laughing, listening to music, praising in the car, having amazing experiences. Like I can't imagine like this, if this didn't happen, I wouldn't have had this experience with my kids. And now I have this experience and standard of what I always want to maintain with my kids. I won't sacrifice opportunities to grow my relationship with my kids for other things. So I think I was asking myself, what do I want to feel? One of the things I want to feel is more peace, more contentment. Another thing I wanted to feel more is just be more stable. I realized that I was a very unsafe person. You know, Flavia would say, like, I never knew what kind of mood you were in. Like, you'd come up from the basement and like, we didn't know who's coming upstairs today, because if we had a good sales day, I was in a good mood. If we had a bad sales day, I was in a bad mood. And I would make sure everybody would feel my bad mood. And I would just spray and I would just be moody. I would be a little whiny little boy when I'm a grown man, and I didn't learn how to regulate my emotions. So I think I realized I want to be somebody who's stable, somebody who's safe, somebody who people can anchor onto, and not for me to be that like kind of leech. So I realized like I need to build security in myself and be confident in myself and start looking at the things that give me confidence. And, part of that is like my personal routine, my fitness. A lot of that stuff got neglected, knowing my numbers better, just kind of getting clarity on like what actually are we trying to build, and not getting caught up in how many we have and the growth metrics, but like what are the metrics that represents success to me, and getting caught in my game, not in other people. So there was a lot of stuff, a lot of questions. And then in the journaling process, one more thing, like I started to notice I journaled a lot about her. My ex. I would journal a ton about like what she's doing and I'm like, why am I spending all this energy? Because I'm still judging her. And I realized, man, I have got this judgmental spirit in me that needs to be dealt with, because I'm still like judging her for things she's doing. And I'm kind of doing some of these things as well. And I'm like, I need to deal with myself. I need to stop worrying about other people, stop trying to control other people. And I need to really own my journey. And, again, the more time I did that, the more I think I was able to grow, become secure in myself, regain respect and trust in myself, and just start to, again, have confidence that, hey, I'm 44, I can rebuild my life. This is not the end. This is a chapter. This is a scene in a long, long movie. This is just like a bad scene in a movie, but this scene had to happen. So I've been able to pull back and realize now, like I told my dad last night, my family's very upset about this, right? Like this is very disturbing, very upsetting about this. Our family wasn't supposed to have a son that divorced, that went through this. Our family wasn't supposed to have this. Like this wasn't the way it was supposed to play out. I said, Dad, you know what? The kids, like I always hated when people said, oh, the kids are better now, because I thought that was such a cop-out. I was like, that's such a cop-out. Oh, the kids are better now because you guys are separate. And the truth of the matter is right now, the situation is better for the kids. Like they are not in a dysfunctional home. And if God wants to bring us back together and there's going to be reconciliation, I've told God, that's on you. If there's going to be softening of hearts, that's on you. I'm not trying to control the outcome anymore. I trust that you had to extract me from this marriage in this time. And I'm going to continue to focus on growing closer to God and my kids and myself, and really staying aligned with what I want to do in business. And that's how I've been leading myself.
Dude, that was amazing. A masterclass in like leadership transformation, man. Like really just deep insights there.
I think the hardest thing, especially for entrepreneurs, is, I was talking to a buddy and, he's scaling. He's just growing and, just got himself a Ferrari. And he's a great dude. He's a super humble guy. I'm like, I was at his place and he had a Ferrari in the garage. I'm like, when the heck did you get this? He's like, yeah, I don't put this on social media. I'm like, good for you, man. He's like, yeah, I was always wanted one. And he's one of those guys that like you're super happy for. He's having all the success. And, I respect the guy. He's doing great. And I said, dude, man, I won't lie to you. Like, I'm feeling jealous. He's like, dude, man, like, you've played this out. And this is patting myself on the back a little bit, but like, it was him giving me the pat. And I'm sharing it because I think it might be helpful. It's like, dude, you've done exactly what you were supposed to do the last 2 years. Like you can't scale right now. You've had to go into safety mode. Like, and that's such a like damaging admission to admit that a man has to go into safety mode. But I've been okay with that because I've had to learn how to take care of kids half the time. and get them to their gymnastics and their soccer and make them their meals and take care of, clean the house at the start of the day and the end of the day and do the dishes and do the laundry and learn how to shop for them. All this stuff I never had to worry about with all the house management stuff she did. Now I have to do that half the time.
Yep.
And that's a lot of extra weight, constant birthdays, driving them around. And I'm not going to be that dad that just delegates all this stuff. I want to be engaged and connected with them. So I've had to learn how to adjust my work to keep this actually front and center, which has been a massive adjustment. And then I've realized that, hey, I've redefined success. Some of these other guys are going to go through the exact same story that I've gone through a couple of years ago. And hopefully maybe I'll build a ministry for them one day to, hey, because they haven't learned as well that, your spouse can leave. She can get up and walk, and there are consequences to neglecting. And, there is a price to pay for, taking people for granted.
Yeah.
So I think now that I've had all these awarenesses, I've redefined success to where I've had this concept called the paradox of success, where you're growing in one area of your life, but you're going backwards in another area. So are you really growing? And I think now I've kind of thought to myself, hey, if I'm just making more money, but I'm distancing myself, from my kids, from my fitness, then am I really successful? Am I really winning? So now I've got a bit more of a multi-dimensional approach to hey, how I want to show up. And then two, my philosophy around what I'm teaching my students, because all my students are just like the same DNA as me. They're they want, and what's funny is what they say to me. I had actually one of our top females kind of call me out, and she says, Vince, it sounds like you kind of resent your business now, yet I hired you because I want to make the same amount of wealth that you've accumulated. But now you're saying that, you would do it differently, but the way you did it was the way you got the stuff that I want. I'm trying to reconcile that in my mind. I'm I don't want to do it the way I did it. That's the point, because you're going to lose it one day. You don't want to do it the way that I did it. I'm trying to tell you, there's a better way of getting there. It's the guy that wins a bunch of Olympias, but he stripped 20 years off his life. I want to be Mr. Olympia. I think that guy might tell you it wasn't worth it. I'm going to live 20 years less. I got all these trophies, but I actually would do it differently. I think that guy would probably say something like that. So I'm don't just do what I did. Don't do what I wish I didn't do as well. Because I've had to reconcile that as well. So what's my value now to the marketplace? I was the guy who would help you scale, but now I'm the guy that wants to help you build a profit-rich business, a purposeful business, a predictable business, a peaceful business, a passion-based business. I want those things in place, or else all the money, man, it's such an illusion. The illusion of money.
Did you see recently Scotty Scheffler, the golfer, his interview online this week?
No.
So he's the number one golfer in the world. He just won a major championship. And at the press conference, he had this profound, deep insight live on camera where he's man, he's I've played my whole life. I've dedicated everything for this sport. 5 minutes from now, I'm going to go home and say, what's for dinner? He's what? He's I just asked myself, what's the point? He's I love golf. He's don't get me wrong. I love it. I'll keep playing. He's but he's I'm not doing this to inspire kids because this is not a fulfilling life to live. He's I often ask myself, what is the point? Why do I want to win this thing so much? He's for what? He's I love it, but why? And in the report, no one got it in the room. No one understood. He's I don't know if you guys get it or not. He's he was having this profound, deep insight of self of realizing that he's done all this for nothing, and it's great. He still loves doing it, but he's also aware of the fact that it's not the thing at the mountaintop, and that's where to your point where you see your students that are going to repeat it. If you don't listen, you will repeat it.
Yeah, it is. I do feel that, and what's interesting is, as I've been kind of sharing this story, there is a lot of fear around talking openly, leaning things down, right? Because if you look at our industry, what was the God, right? It's scaling. If you're not growing, launching a new company, selling one company, your team's not expanding, your events aren't getting bigger, then you're doing something wrong. When I started to talk about this, it's interesting. I actually had a bunch of former coaching clients who blew up during the pandemic. who were in my program for a couple of years, and then they left, the kind of, the pattern, and then they've come back and they said, hey, I can really resonate with what you're talking about. And I feel like my identity is so wrapped up in my income. The way my dad says it is they have confused their self-worth with their net worth. And they're just emotional roller coasters. These are grown men, late 30s, early 40s with kids, and they have these beautiful wives. And, they display these amazing lifestyles online, but they're freaking emotional wrecks. They're like up and down,
I was one of
depending
them.
on how they're
That was me.
right. Yeah, there's a lot of us guys, we just never learn how to regulate and it's like pull back and slow things down and say, hey, what is success? And let's build a business that serves us. It's interesting because when I started to like think about like, hey, I'm looking for like new mentorship, new like just messaging. There was a guy in my coaching program way back in 2017, 18. He came to one of my events, Dan Bolton. Do you know Dan?
I do know. It's so funny because I was thinking of joining his coaching actually.
Yeah, Dan's great. Dan's
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
I didn't know he was so young. He's in his maybe early mid 30s. But I really liked his messaging, and I noticed like he had talked very openly about scaling to 2 million a year, and his take home was like 10-20%, and then he just questioned the whole model. And he just pretty much like shut acquisition down, focused on fulfillment, and fired his whole team down to like he's got 2 VAs or something, 2-3 team members. And then he within about a year or so, he moved his business. I think it stayed around the similar revenue levels, but to 80-90% profits. And I'm like, that's a good model.
Yeah,
And he works like a couple hours a week, a couple hours a day. And I was like, that's not going to be totally me. There's like no pizzazz on his content. Like you still got to like do your thing. Like I like pizzazz in my content, in my my YouTube videos and that. I'm never going to just shoot a video like start to end without any editing or anything. But so like there's certain things that like were not me, but there were certain things I was like, this guy's figured out like the formula: profits, client success, and happiness. And he's building a business that serves him. And I remember him saying something that was kind of like the thing that made me say, I'm going to reach out to him, see what he's offering. I had a post that said something to the effect of your team is not your family. And it's one of his most controversial posts of the year because you hear a lot of entrepreneurs talk about like you got to pour into your team. It's all about your team, and your team is very important. My team knows I love them, and I wouldn't be where I'm at without my team. So I'm not like saying get rid of your team, go fire your team. But what he was saying is that your team is not your family. Your clients are not your family. And that is like, God forbid you put that out on social media that my clients, you guys aren't my family. Gianluca, Aubriana, and Melia, that's my family. That's my family. So if this business isn't serving Melia, Gianluca, and Aubriana, then the business isn't working. And when he said that, I'm like, holy crap, if this business is not actually serving my family, then I don't have any business exporting what's not working in my family to other people's families.
Yeah.
And that was like a real like eye opener. And that's when I kind of just started to look at, hey, I'm going to take pride in leaning down our business and increasing the profits and having a simpler model and, having fewer acquisition channels and now just doubling down on where we get the bulk of our business, which is Instagram. So it's like, I don't need to do all this stuff. There's no shame in having a business that serves me first and foremost, because if I'm not being served, then I can't show up and serve my clients. I can't serve my team. That has taken a long time. I wouldn't say I've fully arrived, but like that's kind of like the process I'm really trying to embody. And I'm just asking myself, do I believe that? Right now, that's what I feel called to do. I don't know. Maybe God's going to say, Vince, I need you back in expansion. But right now, I feel like this is like a good formula for right now. And a lot of people love it. It's interesting how many of our people are like, Vince, I'm not trying to make 100K a month. Like I'm good with like 10 to 20K a month in profit, 20 to 30K per month in profit. So I'm starting to get clear on like most of my people aren't looking to build big, massive organizations. They do prioritize their faith, their family, their freedom more than just their finances. I'm like, okay, that's the market. And I've had to go through the process. Is that who I really am though? Right now, that's where I've settled in. And it is a different demographic. The energy isn't as loud. It's not as hypey. It's a slower pace, but it's working. And I think I've just like given myself permission to build this business around what's working for me, not what all my buddies are doing.
Well, it's interesting. I said to you that, like there's been a lot of interesting people I've connected with recently, and a lot of them are actually making that same transition in their business, whether it be closing a big mastermind, consolidating down multiple locations for their brick and mortar businesses. So I do think there is like an overall like shift happening of simplicity. Cause yeah, I don't think a lot of people want 100 grand a month with a headache and get 20 grand of profit when you could just get 20K in profit without the headache. You know what I mean? Like, I think they would much rather get rid of all of the pain and all of the issues that you have to go through during that grind.
Yeah. I think people are like, what I know for sure is people are now giving themselves permission to process that thought. Where before we just kind of dismiss that. That's like weakness. That's like settling.
Well,
like
I would have called myself an idiot 2 years ago or 3 years ago just for saying that. Yeah. So I understand, like, yeah, it's difficult to make that transition.
And I just know like the work that I've done, a lot of people haven't done. I'm not, again, to toot my own horn, but it's been so emotionally painful to like process and reflect that I just know a lot of guys aren't going to do this work. So I'm like, okay, this is going to open up a whole new marketplace as well for me to be able to reach people that do feel like something is off and like, hey, there is a path. And I want to embody this more and more.
Do you feel like the work is required to be able to see those gaps that you saw?
Oh, big time. Yeah. I mean, I think for men, the first initiator catalyst, if you will, is like extreme pain. Like it's going to hurt. Something is going to happen in your life. It's typically like in athletics, it's an injury, right? A guy is lifting a certain way. He's maybe taking a certain dose and all of a sudden he ends up in the hospital bed, near death experience. He's like, oh crap. Like, whoa. Yep. And he finally he wakes up, or else he would have continued. Yep. And I think in business, it's the same thing. Maybe you lose the whole business. Maybe your revenues go completely backwards. Like so many things can happen. Maybe you make some stupid decisions and you ruin your reputation. Like who knows? Or in your relationship, you know what happened to me. You lose your spouse is like, I'm done. Like I tried, I didn't get anything. I'm out. And you're like, what? What are you talking about? We're married. We have wedding rings on. We said vows. We have 3 kids. We have a house. We have a future. We have money. And then she's like, yeah, but I don't have you. That's all I wanted. And you're like, and she'd been telling you that for 12 years, but you just kind of like, well, you just didn't stop and say, I don't know what to do. Like you didn't
see it.
I didn't see, I was honestly sleeping. That's what, like, if I go back and like think of all the opportunities, like there were so many times I could have, like, and we did go get help, but we never followed through because unfortunately for me, I needed the sledgehammer to my skull to like wake up. It had to be so painful that I was like, okay, now I'm awake. Yeah. Okay, now you have my attention, but it was too late. And then that's when I actually experienced the cost. So I guess I share this message is some guys, unfortunately, are going to have to get that massive injury. They're going to have to get that sledgehammer to wake up. Hopefully people listening like see the warning signs. And if there's warning signs, take them very seriously or else you're not the exception. You're not the person that's going to, and you don't want to be the exception because you don't want a crappy marriage. Like this is what happened. I've had to process so much where I'm like, now, what if she came back today and she said, hey, I want to try again? I have grown so much. Like, unless we were on the same page in like the values that I prioritize and the way I want the relationship to be, I'm like, I don't know. I don't think I would be ready to even try, to be honest, myself, because I have grown. And I've regained the self-respect.
That's growth right there.
I'm in a place where like, I know how to raise 3 kids on my own. And it was so funny because I was like, well, then we can combine all of our assets again and I'd be back to where I was revenue-wise. And I'm like, crap, I'm still making money. My God, I'm still idolizing money. I'm like, wow, so this is still, I still have to work this out where my temptation to go back into the relationship right away was to immediately get back to the net worth that we were close to. We both have lost a lot, but like that was my first thought. I'm like, wow. So I haven't grown in this area. There's still work to do. And that scared me, but I'm glad that I had the ability to like recognize that and realize like, I don't want that though. I actually want to be in a great relationship. I would rather a downsized business, less money, more freedom in a beautiful relationship than going back to the lifestyle that I had.
That's such amazing awareness, which that's step one. Like you need awareness, like awareness precedes clarity, clarity precedes action, action precedes change. Until you're actually aware of the shit that's going on, you're never going to change anything. When you mention signs and signals, I'm curious. I've found for myself and other people I've worked with that they've had also physiological signs to show like the disconnect. Like you mentioned, like who knows who's coming up the stairs. Were you ever able to notice signs that correlated with moods physiologically, whether it be tension muscles, pain in your neck, or anything like that? I'm just curious if anything came up for you.
I gained a lot of weight. I went back up to like the 220s. There was a phase where we were drinking a lot. Like this is when Aubriana, she's 6 now, and it was like the 3 years before we separated. There was a lot of stress. Interestingly, that's when the business grew the most. It was during through the pandemic, but I was jacked up on a lot of caffeine. So I'd be having like 300 milligrams of caffeine to compensate for the crappy sleep I'd have because I put myself to bed with like half a bottle of wine. Her and I love drinking wine and watching TV in the evening times. And so that was like the cycle. A lot of wine, crappy sleep, a lot of caffeine, and I was functioning. I was scaling the business off of frantic adrenalized energy. And that's actually one of the things Angel helped me with too. She got me on the sprays. I don't know if you've done the crystals and the capsules and all that stuff
Yeah, yeah,
too.
yeah.
Yeah, so I
Yep.
got on all that stuff and I did the spoons too when I went down to see her. And that was the beginning of the process of being able to see clearly and like rewiring my brain, like
Yeah,
literally
yeah.
rebuilding my brain. And that's when I came off of caffeine. I've been off of caffeine for over 2 years now. Of June 2023, I came off of caffeine. And I've been operating on just this calm energy. And I wanted to rebuild my life without chemicals.
Nice.
I came off TRT as well for about 2 years. I've recently gone back on because I try to bring all my levels up to where I wanted them with just natural supplements. And then I added HCG, and then I couldn't get them to where I wanted. And I've been slowly, I brought a bit of test back in, but I want to see what life was like without testosterone as well. So I went chemical free. I don't think I'll bring caffeine back. I'm okay with the small dose of tests that I'm doing, but I really wanted to just like function off of natural energy. And I didn't
Yeah.
want excess chemicals to influence my ability to produce. In the past, I did. Like that was the edge. Massive caffeine. I worked like I get a week's worth of work in a day. And I thought like, do I want to go back to that though? Because that's when I was like
Hmm.
always frantic.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't have this calm and peace, which I like right now. It's taken a long time to adapt to the pace, which
Yep.
just everything feels slower. But I want to rebuild off of natural energy. That's like my goal. It's like my new standard. I do want to rebuild. I do want to grow. I do want to scale again at some point, but I don't want to do it with the assistance of all the chemicals.
And I love that. Like you, like again, you're aware of like it's the awareness that I can go back and do it this way if I want, but I'm choosing to do it a better way because I know how the other way does, like how it ends up.
Exactly. So that's exactly. I don't want, I guess that's the big thing. I don't want to make these same mistakes again.
Yeah.
It scares me. At the same time, I'm sure I'm going to stumble and wobble, but like, I don't want to make the big mistakes again, which is again, yeah, it's like, am I going to repeat all this again in another relationship, or am I going to repeat different things? And, in the process, you learn a lot about, okay, there's certain things I can't control, and there's certain things that I'm just going to continue to work on that I can control, and then just leave the rest up to God and, trust that God's grace through the process will be sufficient.
Yeah. And I do think as long as like you're down this path of growth and like the learning, like the more that you learn, the more likely it is for you not to repeat the thing. But if you don't ever learn, you're going to keep repeating it. And most likely you're going to not even know it because it's going to be an unconscious thing or subconscious or, you know what I mean? So I think that awareness that you're gaining is what's keeping you moving forward. So that way you don't repeat it.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm aware of the warning signs too. I know some non-negotiables that I would maintain. I just think like business is not my priority anymore. I want it to grow, but not at a rate that's going to take me away from the thing that I know I want the most. I've had that opportunity to have this experience. I know what it feels like to be connected to my kids. Like I don't want to lose this. I went to Elevation Church's Youth X
Oh yeah, I
summer
saw
camp
that.
last.
How was it?
It's incredible. Let's just put it this way. My daughter, we had a 15-hour bus ride. We slept in a church on Sunday night. I slept on the floor with 16 other youth leaders. 16 adults slept on a floor. We slept on a floor. I had a sleeping bag. I haven't been in a sleeping bag. I can't tell you in how long. on an air mattress, slept maybe 2 hours. The kids stayed up all night. There was 90 kids in the church running around. We boarded a bus at 5 a.m. and we took a bus from Toronto, Ontario to North Carolina. It took us over 15 hours to get there. It wasn't too bad actually. 15 hours on a bus. I had to, cancel all my meetings that day because it was, the bus was crazy loud. And I
Yeah.
was there as an adult chaperone. So I had to, I said, hey, can I do this and this? Like, dude, you're kind of here to serve. Like, you got to be, you've got a group of kids. You got to look, that's why you're here, not to have the experience, just the experience, but to serve. Well, you've got like 6 kids you've got to watch. I had middle schoolers. I hung out with middle schoolers, but they don't listen.
Yeah.
They're so funny. These middle schoolers, like the questions they ask you are hilarious.
Yeah.
Anyways, so then we get down there and we're in a hotel for 4 nights. And my daughter is very social. She made friends with 8 girls right away. And I had a race on Saturday. I was running a 22K trail race on Saturday. So I knew I didn't want to be in the bus on Friday when we drove home for another 16 hours. So I booked us a one-way flight home. And she was very upset that she couldn't be on the 16-hour bus ride because she wanted to spend more time with the girls that she became friends with. I just shared that because we had this incredible week together. And I was at all the events, the worship nights. I was there the whole time. She's like half the time, every time I looked at her, she'd say, Dad, stop. Dad, don't. I just like look at her. I just like look at her. She says, Dad, no, not now. I'm with my friends. So I get to have these experiences with her that were really special. And she wants to go back next year. My son wants to go and she wants to bring back new friends. I'm like, this will become something that we do every summer. We'll tack on to our yearly experiences. We did a vision board at the start of the year and we had all these experiences between mostly concerts, lake stuff, worship experiences. We do want to try and get to Italy. I don't know how I'm going to pull that off, me and 3 kids, but we've got all these experiences that we want to have together. This has been the highlight of my year. And they're so young and they're like, I just can see her growing up so quickly. Like there's going to be probably another year or two where, I don't get that. Like she takes my hand when we're at Canada's Wonderland and she's an 11-year-old girl and she reaches for my hand to walk through the park. And she'll come to me and give me a hug. Now, if I'm always in her face, I don't get that. I know how to give her space, but I've learned how to relate to my 11-year-old. And I've learned how to relate to my son. He plays rep soccer now. And I've learned when he plays, he's never going to hear this, but when he's having a great game, I'm like, Gianluca, like I used to get so frustrated with him. I know, like, give him some space, talk to him. Hey, how did the game go? I'm learning how to relate to him and not how to like, dude, what the hell happened? Like the other dads, guys, what the hell happened? You guys got clobbered, 8-1. Explain yourself, son. Like, that's what I want to say too. But I'm like, he'll be so upset. And then he'll go and run in his room and slam the door. I'm like, okay, I got to figure out, like, this is valuable to me to figure out how to relate to my son after he just has a horrible soccer game. I'm like, what do I say? What don't I say? How do I like do this gracefully, but also with strength? And I'm his dad. I want him to improve. And I would have just like, I don't have time for this. I got work to do. So I think I'm just very proud that like I'm engaged in their everyday activities. And I feel like I know my kids. I feel like I know them and I take pride in that.
I feel like you know you, which is cool.
Yeah. It's
Yeah, dude, like seriously, like, I mean, I've known you for a few years now, man. It's really cool to see. I'm very happy to see you now and to see the real you sitting in front of me versus the stage you that we've seen on stage.
It's interesting because, one of the things that, and again, this isn't to throw her under the bus at all, but it gives you a representation of her reality in the marriage. And her reality, she didn't think I wanted to be a good dad. Like in her mind, I was not a good dad, which really, really hurts. Because I believe I always wanted to be, but I just didn't know how.
Well,
Because
yeah.
I wasn't myself. And, I share that because that was like, I now know that that's not true. I did want to be a great dad. And I take pride in that because I've put in the effort to learn how to be a great dad. And it's more than just being present. They don't just want my presence, but they want me to be engaged and to listen and to remember things. And again, I'm not perfect. I'm like, not like they're like, Dad, you're not listening to me. I get that all the time. Dad, I already told you that. Like, what? Dad, that bothers me now. I'm like, God, I don't yell back. It's like, sorry, you got my attention. Just give me 1 second. I want to hear this. Let's sit down over here. This work is what's giving me fulfillment because I know like it's going to pay off down the road. And what's also really fulfilling is that like this isn't stuff like you take pictures of and post on social media. This is the stuff that happens behind closed doors. So I feel like I'm trying to develop my character, which is who you are when no one's looking.
Yep.
That's what matters now. Yeah, I don't want to be the guy's like, yeah, he had it all, he had a nice, cool business, but like that's not how I heard he was behind closed doors. I heard he was a different guy. I don't want that. I don't, not
Yeah,
that I
yeah.
care what people think, like because it's true. Like I don't want that.
Yeah, well, you just want to be real. It's really, really cool to see that transformation. And I think just one thing to hit back when you said about like trying to be a good dad, I think that's the importance of language. Is I think that every man is trying, but they don't necessarily know how. And it's not necessarily fair to say they're not trying. They might not be a good dad at that moment, but it's not because they're not trying. I would probably say
Yeah.
it's because they don't know how, you know? And I guess part of it is learning how to do it. And that's what's so cool to see is for you to be able to look back now and see that awareness and the gap and how to close it. And now be able to teach the people that are in your circles. Like, hey, dude, like I found the
Right.
gap. Like, here's how you can avoid making that same mistake. Cause again, a lot of guys don't know that stuff.
Right. Yeah. So many little situations. I do credit a lot of learning to my middle brother, Adrian. He's a great dad and he's like, he reads all the books.
I
It's
met him
like,
at your
I can't
mastermind.
keep
He's
up.
great.
Yeah. So he's really like, he reads all the books, like, and when we ran our Bedrock coaching program, he did a lot of interviews with dads who like, fathers who have businesses around helping fathers and all that. So like, he'll like, hey, he gives me a lot of quick insights. Like he'll summarize a book for me in 10 seconds. We're like, hey, give him some space. It's okay. Let him slam the door. Just, give him 10 minutes and then go see how he's doing. Like little things like where I would be like, get back down here right now. You don't walk away from me like that. Like, it's okay. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
chill out. I get a lot of downloads from him. But I also like, talk to other dads about like, hey, my ex told me that my son wants to get earrings and he's never mentioned this to me. So I bring this stuff to my buddies and they're like, oh, don't worry about it. Wait for him to bring it up with you. He's probably just doesn't know it's all good. I'm like, where I would like, what the hell's going on? Hey, like, so
Yeah.
I'm putting energy into things that like where I would just hear that go in one ear out the other, oh, big deal, whatever. I don't have to worry about that. Like, no, I do need to worry about that. Like, is this something I should be concerned about? Is this
Hmm.
something I need to bring up? Let me get some advice from other men who are older than me, who've got older sons. Hey, how do I
Yeah.
handle this? Is this something I even need to handle? And I get some wisdom from wiser dudes who can say like, yeah, this one's, you're good with this one. So I think surrounding myself with other good dads who just don't talk about business and work and money has been very, very helpful,
Yeah.
who have the same values as well.
Yeah.
Because, hey, this is something you can't just do by yourself.
Absolutely, dude. So as we wrap up here today, is there, I guess, one little nugget? If there's one thing that was probably, I would say, the best thing that's helped you, whether it be a tool, a book, or something that you've come across, what would you recommend for anyone listening?
Oh man, that's great. I think every guy's got to kind of figure out, the things that give their day. I think most men's like thrive when they've got structure and stability in their life. So figure out what those things are. For me, it's a evening routine, it's a morning routine, it's nailing my workout, nailing my diet, being off my phone 2 hours a day. And I got one more. I'm forgetting. Oh, and then my 10,000 steps. Like there's just a
Yeah.
couple, and each one of these things serves a different purpose. The 10,000 steps is time with myself. I get to listen to my voice.
Yep.
The no phone zone keeps me disconnected, slows the day down, adds an element of boring to my day. The workout and the nutrition are kind of self-explanatory, but they help me. Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest hacks for men to just look in the mirror and like what they see. I'm running long races again, and I'm almost the best I looked. I'm getting close to the best condition I've ever been in. And this morning and evening routine is where I have my quiet time. It's where I plan my day for, the following day. These things like all stack and create momentum. So like when I've got bad news with my personal life or like there's something happening in work, I'm stable. And I'm
Yeah.
like, hey, I have that inner confidence that I need to weather the storms. So I think for most men, it's like create a plan. Like
Yeah.
just to sum it up, guys need a plan. Create a plan that works for you, and then get around some guys who can even hold you accountable to that plan. So you can, not hide in the corner when you screw the plan up, but you can get back on track. So I think having that daily foundation set in place is like really crucial to like getting through tough times because you can always just come back to like, hey, I'm in control of all these things. I'm strong. You don't lose sense of who you are, and you get wins and you get momentum to go conquer whatever else you got to do in your day.
Love it, man. So if you're listening, get yourself a plan, get some structure, and find some people, some guys to get yourself around to be able to lean on if you ever fall off that plan so you can get back on. And where can everyone find you, Vince, if they want to find out more information about you or any of your programs?
Yeah, at Vince Del Monte on Instagram, blue verified account at Vince Del Monte on Instagram.
Yeah. So check out Vince's stuff on Instagram, and that will lead you into all of his programs and all of his work. Amazing conversation today, literally a masterclass on how to transform as a leader. Thank you again, Vince, for coming to the show, and can't wait to see you again. Hey, thanks so much for taking the time out of your day to listen to the show. And if you are a small business owner and you are ready to unlock your true leadership potential, scale your profits, and build a business that actually thrives without you, here are 3 ways that I can help. Number 1, take the What Type of Leader Are You quiz. I'll leave it in the show notes. It's going to give you some great insights into the patterns that are basically running your leadership style and negatively impacting you and your team. The second way is the Lighthouse Leader Program. This is a intensive program for you to develop your leadership skills, remove the mental blocks that have been holding you back, and take you and your business to the next level. If you want to learn more about it, find me on Instagram, Ryan.Lighthouse. Shoot me a DM that says Lighthouse Leader, and we can talk details. And finally, the last way would be to work with me privately. I do mentor small business owners and their teams to grow their business and remove the owner from the day-to-day operations. And if you want to learn how to do that, same thing. Go on Instagram, find me, Ryan.Lighthouse. Send me a DM that says mentorship. We can talk about the details of one-on-one mentorship and how I can come in and help work with you and your team. But thank you again for listening to this show, and stay tuned for next episode.